Welcome back, everyone. I'm just going to give us all a minute to file on in. If you're just joining us, welcome back. Just giving us a couple seconds to all get moved in. Welcome back, everyone. We'll kick things off again in just a couple seconds here. All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had a fantastic lunch break, a short but fantastic lunch break, and I hope you enjoyed your first breakout session. We are honored to have Daniel Mendoza here for our after lunch keynote. Mr. Mendoza is the program administrator for the Placer County Office of Education's Early Childhood Education Department. He is passionate about integrating creativity through art within classrooms, helping educators to encourage children to deeply learn math, science, and other content through play and art making. Please join me in welcoming him. Hi, Daniel. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us and for your patience. I see we have lots of participants still coming in. All right, I think we might be ready for you, Daniel. If you're all ready to go, screen sharing is all yours.
All right. I will go ahead and get screen started. Hello, everybody. Let me get some things worked out here. A little technology always is fun. And I will get my screen sharing over here. I hope you're all doing super amazing today. And like those sessions, haven't they been so amazing? It has been beyond phenomenal to hear all the things that everybody is doing and talking about and engaged in their work, and just seeing you all here is like complete positivity. I love math so much. Like, I'm so crazy about math and everything that goes on. So 100%, this is right up what I love doing, why we're all here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. My name is Daniel Mendoza. I am welcoming you all to my studio space, which a lot of folks don't get to see. And if you're looking around and saying, oh, I see why it's like crazy messy in here, it is like exactly what we're gonna be talking about today, about children, about their ability to understand modalities and math and what that all looks like. I'm going to invite you to please share in the chat if you'd like. We're going to do a connection activity in a minute. The other thing I'm going to say is right now you're looking at two screens, and I am probably tiny on this side maybe, or this side, and then my slides are big on one side, and in between us is a little vertical equal mark, right? And so I'd like you, if you could slide and just maybe make us a little equal in size, or maybe my slides a little smaller, me a little bit smaller, but just so that you can see everything going on. I am going to be sharing out a lot of things. I see some hands raised. If you have some questions, it's like super hard for me to answer some things. So if I could get some help in the chat, I'm sure they'll help you out. So if the other hosts want to come off mute and yell at me about anything. So I'm going to go through, we are going to do a session today called Counting Colors, and we're going to bridge math and art learning experiences. So again, I asked you to make me kind of big so that you could see me doing all kinds of things. This is my canvas today. I'm going to be showing you some different things on the canvas. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Daniel Mendoza, and I am a former preschool teacher. I work in early childhood education for a county-run program, and I'm also an artist. So as you can see, I've invited you into my space today to kind of see what's happening, what's going on here. This is my work from a previous show. Some of the things I do are I try to use recycled paints. I utilize my own photography. I hand make my own brushes. And all kinds of fun stuff, but that's me. And the bigger part, the other part of me that I completely love is I'm a preschool teacher. So I taught preschool. It always makes me emotional to think about my preschoolers. But I taught preschool for a really long time. I'm still involved in preschool. I'm currently going to be working with a bunch of state preschool programs, which I'm so excited about. But thank you again for being here. These are why I do what I do, these children here. And children are like gravitate towards me. It's kind of funny. We can be anywhere and children will come up to me and start talking to me. And my wife will say, do you know that child? Was that one of your preschoolers? I'll say, I have no idea who that child was. But children always have been drawn to me. It's just been a thing ever since I was little. So that led me into early childhood education as an artist to want to do this work. So art, the use of art as a language, children utilize that, right? Paint, brushes, all these materials become mediators for children. It becomes their ability to share, right? Their ability of communication. And educators, we serve as that guide to bring that forward for children, to really give them that opportunity to dive in and understand what their abilities are, what their needs are, and who they are as individuals. So we're going to think about art for a second as I'm messing around over here, playing with a lot of stuff. You see I have like a whole table of goodies over here, and I have my canvas going on. But what I want to do is I want to invite you to participate in art connection activity. So what I want you to do is in the chat is think about some artworks. I'm going to share a couple artworks. But remember, right, art does not exist solely on this singular plane, right? Art is multifaceted. And what else is multifaceted? Math. Math is so in depth and so connected to who we are as individuals. So art is multifaceted, right? It's not just paintings. It's not just a drawing. It can be music. We can think about like musical artists that create art, and it can be literature, right? These are just a few examples sharing with you some artwork and just some ideas. So in the chat, what I'd love for you to do is think about art. Think about a piece of art, music, or a book that you love. You don't have to get too into detail. You could just share the title, the name, and go ahead and put that into the chat. So I'm going to give you all about a minute to think about that. 2 minutes, right? We'll go 2 minutes, think about it. I'm going to mess around over here, put it in the chat, and then I'm going to ask you to respond to something in the chat. But I'll tell you about that in just 1 minute. So go ahead, put those in the chat. I'm actually going to come peek at the chat here and see what you're all sticking in there. And so I'm super excited because I also saw that we have folks like all over the world. I saw someone from South Africa on here. There was another country I saw that it doesn't pop into my head, but I saw Chicago, I saw Washington, Oregon. So thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So I'll be very interested to see what you all share in here. So you go ahead and get started in there. I'm gonna mess around over here and then we're gonna have some fun. So I'm just going to be working over here. You'll kind of see me playing. It's going to be messy. It's going to be fun. It's going to be just like early childhood education is. And then we're going to talk about some more math things in here too. So let me take a peek at your chat. What do we have going on? Dance, right? Oh, Lauren Hill, I like it. Banksy's on here, right? Starry Night. Okay, so you've had about a minute or so to kind of start putting in these things. I love this, right? Photography, dance, music. I see Mozart. Cooking. Yes, cooking is 100% artwork, right? I love the culinary arts. Like, I mean, I'm trying to be a little slim here, but still can't help myself. Pollock, Matisse, I hear you naming artists, right? All these things. Clay, I love it. Okay, now what I would like you to do you're thinking about art, and this is a math symposium, and math is our 100%. I'll tell you that, just personal experience. We've all seen it. It's all there. Now, I'd like you to go in and just look through this chat here and find something that maybe resonates with you. Like, let's see, cooking again is in here, right? Photography. And just comment. You don't have to comment on a bunch of them. You can just pick one and comment on how you see math in that. So in cooking, how do you see math in cooking? In Matisse, where's the math in Matisse, right? In Eric Carle, well, that one's a good one, right? Where's the math in there? So go ahead and respond. You can respond to those right underneath it if you'd like. You can just respond into the chat, but look how it's filling up. Not only is it filling up with art, because we are so connected to art, and art is who we are in our everyday experiences, in our everyday life. It's a part of us from the time we wake up to the time we go to bed. It's ingrained in who we are as individuals, right? And then see how much math, like this thing's going like I won a jackpot at a casino. I pulled the thing and it's spinning. That's what I can see in the chat right now. So that's amazing, right? Look at how much math is embedded into art. Math is so deeply ingrained into art in our everyday lives that we don't even realize it. One of the things I've shared, if you've ever seen me present before about math, and I share this story, I sat down with my 3-year-olds, and I even think one of my teachers is in here. She might have even been there that day. And I sat down with my 3-year-olds. I was lucky enough to be part of the first CAMI, the first CPE group that went out and we did all the work originally. And just so amazing, changed my whole perspective. So we were doing that work, and I sat down with my 3-year-olds. I said, okay, everybody, guess what we're gonna do today? And they're like, what are we gonna do, Teacher Daniel? I said, we are gonna do math. And they all went, oh, and like shrunk. And we were like, what? You are 3 years old and you are already saying math is bad. But math is a part of us, right? Math is a part of who we are. It's ingrained in us as individuals. We have this ability to grow and learn from it. So we changed it, right? We decided that we are going to become mathematicians. So all the time I hear folks say, oh, the children, you guys are such amazing artists. Children, you are such amazing readers, or you are such amazing, runners. Why can't we be amazing mathematicians, right? So here we are. We are amazing mathematicians. And look at all this wonderful stuff that you're going. I'm glad that someone loves Guernica. And there's a little theme running through here, but I'm sure you'll figure it out later. So moving on here, thank you all so much for sharing this, for seeing those connections, for seeing that ability in art beyond what that all is. So moving forward here, we're going to share some activities. This little clicker, come on, baby clicker, you got this. It moved away. It's my fault. I moved it away from here. Okay, so humans are born with an urgent biological need to create art. And I also feel like we have this urgent biological need to experience math. Math and art are so tied together, right? Art helps put our own life experiences into symbolic form. What do we use in math? Symbols, right? Numbers, right? We are able to stand back, clarify, critically examine, and share our experiences. Where else do we stand back? Where else do we look to clarify, critically examine things? Math, right? Math does that for us. Math is that experience for us to engage, to understand, just like art. It's an ability for us to see the world. Now, this is my easel in my preschool classroom. This is how maybe some of you are like, oh my goodness, how could you? Like, they should be spotless. I've seen this, right? But what does this show us? That children are using it, right? That children are engaged, that they like what they're doing. Now there is brown paper over it, so I might pull it off, rip it off, and change it out to keep it clean. I'll share some little tricks and tips as I go through here too with some other stuff that we're doing. But thinking about this, right? Thinking about how children examine themselves. Look at the proportion my friend Lindsay over here is sharing with her little drawing, right? Think about those pieces. So what we're going to do today, my objectives and my why, is we're kind of discover how children's artwork can express mathematical thinking and ideas as a form of visual language, right? How can we get them to represent these things? Now, I pretty much, if you can see this, maybe because I used the the orange over here, you might not be able to see it as much, right? Patterns, right? Explore, we're gonna explore, discuss, and engage with open-ended materials. So I'm gonna be doing that. I'm gonna actually invite you to do something a little similar because I'm hoping some of you are at your desks or maybe you're around a bunch of things, I'm hoping, that support the development of spatial reasoning, patterning, number concepts, and fluid mechanics. We're also going to intentionally kind of introduce and expand children's math vocabulary. We're going to learn about these words, right, and how they're utilized in these art experiences. We're going to identify, interpret the mathematical ideas children are communicating through their artwork and creative choices, right? And I mentioned earlier, we're guides, right? We're here to help children move through these processes, right? We're not here to give them the answers. We want them to come up with the solutions themselves, right? We want them to understand how they can utilize their skills and their understanding in math to create better ability for them to function as individuals and create a space for themselves and others, right? Then we're going to kind of talk about paraphrasing, documenting children's mathematical thinking to support assessment across all developmental domains with a focus on cognitive and mathematical development. Now, that piece across all developmental domains is hugely important. It's a big part of understanding, right? When we do an art activity, it's not just an art activity, right? It's a language activity. It's a social emotional activity. It is a math activity. And one of the things to think about, and this was shared, and you are all going to see this graphic that I'm going to bring up next a lot, especially with the CPE work. So the folks at AIM, Fresno, they came up with this graphic here that they shared at our symposium. And I was like blown away. I immediately, I saw this and I pulled it right off and I stuck it in this slide deck the day I saw it. So this was like 2-3 weeks ago. And I was like, nope, this is already going in here. But looking about increasing student engagement, right? And I love this analogy of the milkshake and the ice cream, right? We look at this, disciplinary, right? Where students learn concepts and skills separately in isolation, right? But we don't want to do that, right? Especially with our littles, we know that they're so inquisitive, we know that they're so engaged that we want to look beyond that. So as we look at multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and get to that transdisciplinary, that milkshake, that's where we're headed, right? By undertaking real world problems or projects, students apply knowledge and skills from 2 or more disciplines and help to shape the learning experience. This is crazy, right? We do this as early child educators. We know we do this all the time, right? When we set up activities, when we're engaged with children, this is what we're doing 100% all the time. This is how we have those conversations with children. This is how we design. We know that they're going to be inquisitive. We know that that one thing is going to turn into 1,000 things. So how do we do this? So I love this graphic. Like I told you, you're going to see it a lot, especially as you see the CPE work go out into the world. So please, you'll see this, utilize it, think about it, use it in your practice. So moving on now, I'm going to talk about an activity. So this is an activity. I'm going to invite you to give this a shot at your spaces. Grab little materials, grab different things. If you have paper clips, Post-it notes, and think about how you might just play around with these, right? Almost like a little fidget toy in a way. So this is an activity that I do with children called Little Math Talks. It turns into all kinds of things. So the first thing I usually do is I just get some cardboard and I cut it up. I have a big giant cardboard right here and I cut it up. So I'll have like little pieces of cardboard. And this activity is designed to create conversations, interactions, storytelling, the expansion of ideas, so many ideas happening with children, abstract concepts, right? This activity is authentic. And again, that milkshake, right? There's a huge connection between domains and how we utilize. So one of the things I love to do is I love to take these materials and I love to give these to children and really kind of just give them the opportunity to engage. So I'm gonna take a bunch of glue here. And I will hand the materials out. I'll give them the cardboard. You can see that I have some pretty good brushes going on over here with them in these images. And there, I love these little tubes. You can find these like on all the things, the internet, wherever, look them up, the little thing. You'll notice that their colors, I put a little liquid watercolor in there so they're fun. So not only are we building fine motor skills, right, in the children, which is an important component at this age, but we're starting to have discussions. So again, I just invite them to come have a seat. I leave this out, they're open-ended materials. And then they'll just start spreading the glue, putting it on their cardboard here. And then I have different things. So I have a lot of fun things here, always. I might utilize these fun little puffs. You're probably all familiar with these. You can actually wet these, right? So you could wet them. You don't even need glue and they'll stick. I have a bucket of water over here, sorry. You could wet them and they'll stick on here, right? I obviously glued this, so you could just use the glue, thinking about having those conversations. So I see you're over here. What can you tell me about what you're making? Oh yeah, I'm making my family. Usually a lot of times they'll tell me this. You are making. So can you tell me a little bit about your family here? It kind of also looks like you're making a pattern, right? And so having those conversations with children, talking about those things, and just really open-ended. I like this one at the beginning of the year because I learn a lot about them. I learn about their understanding. I learn about where they are developmentally. I learn about their families. A lot of times that's what happened. But then the other thing that starts to happen is we start to stack things. Things start to get height, right? We start to put things on top of each other. So now we're talking about height. Now we're talking about those different things that they have in their width even, right? How far across are you making those? How tall, right? You can see the different things happening for the children there. Let's see, let me get this a little closer here. Come on, yeah, there he is. All right, so as they move through, right, you can also introduce shapes. So we have little shapes. You can start to build those shapes on there, triangles, hearts, having these conversations, talking about these different math components that are going on, sitting through here. So what begins to start to happen in this, right? Children start constructing, right? Not only are they just constructing concepts about math or ideas, they're also constructing their thoughts, right? You can also do multiplication in these. I see you have 2 blue ones, and you told me that you wanted to put 3 on there. So if you have 2, how many more do you need, right? Constructing there. They're also deconstructing. Oh, I see you're trying to build taller. What do you need to do to build taller? Do you need to take things away? Do you need to add? Right? So all these things are happening for children through these activities, through their interactions, through your conversations. Because again, you as an educator, you're a teacher, right? You're here to guide them. You're here to help them understand and move through these processes. This is a really amazing, calming activity. You can kind of even see by the pictures, right, that these children are so deeply engaged and so involved. You can also start to identify within this activity. What shapes are you using there? I see rectangles, right? I see rectangles. I see circles. Can you tell me more about those? They might start constructing multiple shapes, right? Start putting triangles and squares and squares. If I take these 4 squares here, what happens when I take 4 little squares? What do they make? Oh my goodness, Teacher Daniel, you made a big square with 4 little squares, right? They're identifying these things, the properties, right? Not only properties though, when we think about this, the properties of the material, of the shapes and, the different parts of that, but the properties of the material. What's happening to my glue as I'm leaving it here, right? It's dripping, is it drying out, right? They're comparing and contrasting in this, right? These are all mathematical terms that they'll use later on in life in geometry, in calculus, in algebra, right? Again, in early childhood education, what we're doing here is we're laying the foundational skills for children to be able to adapt, right? They're also contrasting, right? And not only that, not only did we use all these different things here, I also have some feathers over here, I have all kinds of fun stuff happening over here. Not only that, but we're multimodality, right? I see, if you look in here on this image here, I have some really great packing or the little paper stuff that you might see when you're doing wrapping materials. So trying to find things that, even though I just kind of want them to play and engage and have some fun. Oh, here's a giant square. That's kind of exciting. So I can compare, what does this giant square look like compared to my 4 little squares that I put together. So thinking about those pieces, right? Thinking about what you can add to this. There's really no right or wrong material in this or way to utilize these materials. It's just that ability to add those spaces here, to create the ability for children to really understand what that looks like. These things are so awesome. I don't know if you've ever put these in water. I'm getting super close here. But they squish, you see they start disintegrating. If you don't know, these are edible, but I do not recommend eating them. In all my experiences, I have a colleague on the art initiative, the state art initiative. He is a 45-year-old man, and he's the only person I've ever seen stick one of these in his mouth when I said, these are edible, don't eat them. And he's all, oh yeah, don't eat them, right? Don't eat them. And so fine for the children, right? We want to keep everybody safe, but yeah, not a recommendation. But thinking about those things, right? Thinking about how properties of materials work, how children might start to create that understanding and explore the benefits, right? Of being engaged, of sitting with you, of having those conversations, right? You all work in early childhood education, I assume, right? You work in some capacity with people are who are going to be there and be within that, in that space with children, right? So serving as a guide, giving them that opportunity to explore, to engage, is an important piece. So as I mentioned earlier too, you can see some different things in here, right? I have wooden shapes, I have balls, we're stacking, we're having conversations, we're talking about the different components that they're doing, the materials that they're utilizing, how they're engaged, how what's happening. Ooh, things are falling off over here. And the other thing I mentioned was the fine motor development piece, right? Thinking about how children develop. A lot of times I'll have parents come up to me and say, you know, my child, he is not holding the pencil the right way. He can't write his name. They physically can't. Right? We know this as early educators. We've seen some of this data before, I hope, right? They physically can't. This is a continuation of what development looks like in the muscles in the hand. We can see what's happening right here in 3 and 4-year-olds, right? They don't have that grip, right? They don't have that ability. And that's why we do these things. That's why when we're counting these, you know, how many of these do you have? Can you put them on here? Can we count if we take away, you know, and pulling these off are all fine motor skills that we can pull away from children, giving them that chance to develop, to grow and understand. As I do this activity, I have conversations. I love this picture over here um, of I'm trying to remember. Oh, little Brittany. So Brittany, right? She had this ability to do the edge. So I was like, this is pretty interesting because we'd see how she kind of just do the edge of things. So the outline, and think about the math in that. I'd love for you to share in the chat because I'm going to get this chat later and see, like, where do you see the math and that ability, how she's just like on the fine edge, right? She's like so guiding that through there. But thinking about my other friend Trevor here, right? And he just has one singular thing on there, right? He's glued the whole thing. And I remember that that's how he ended. It had to be one. No, I only want one, teacher Daniel, right? And so those ability, that understanding, allowing them to kind of grow and expand on their math vocabulary and their understanding. And here we are. And then, right, it always turns in. A lot of times these turn into like family things. So it will be kind of the conversation of stacking. Well, so let me see if I have a good image of this one. So here's another one, and I'll hop back to these. But like, look at this one over here. So she stacked them up, right? So talking about height, right? Talking about depth. So which one's mommy? Oh, mommy's this one. Well, how do we know mommy's this one? Oh, because daddy's this one, he's taller. Well, how many did you use to make daddy? Oh, daddy's 4. So if you use 4 and mommy's smaller, how many did you use for mommy? I used 3. Oh, so is 4 more than 3? 4 is more than 3, right? And so having those conversations, not right, we don't always think about those pieces that are happening. Well, who are these smaller ones that are only 2? Oh, 2 is me and 1 is my brother because he's just a baby, right? So coming through those, making those real world authentic connections is so important to learning. We know that if we don't have that connection, that emotional connection to something, we are less apt to understand, to comprehend, and to keep that knowledge Excuse me. So it's important to have those pieces, right? To make it connected, to make it real world experiences for them, to deeper their connection, to deeper their understanding, and to deeper their ability to hold on to that information. Because they're going to use that later, like I mentioned earlier, right? We're going to get to algebra and they're going to have to be going through a sequence and talking about this. And my hope is that when they get to that algebra class and they're following a sequence, like a code or something in there, that they're going to say, you know what, I can do this because I learned coding and like sequence and patterning from teacher Daniel in preschool. So I totally have this. Totally have this test locked in. So that's my hope, right? And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in early education. We're giving the children that opportunity to explore, to expand, to share their abilities. So I really invite you to play with this activity. If you're at your desk and you're kind of just putting little collections together, we think about like counting collections, cardinality. Loose parts is huge in our industry, right? We talk about loose parts all the time. Have all kinds of toys over here and I always forget about my squirt bottle. And so thinking about all this different stuff, squirt bottles are fun too for the classroom, but please remember what's gonna happen, right? Where is this going? So we can have those conversations. We can create that social emotional learning that goes along with all of these pieces. Find different things outside of the box, right? Not just your normal shapes and stars. Like think about how you can create that adaptability for children, what you can integrate, what's happening in your own kind of environments, in your own classrooms. Like, you know, I've had years where our classrooms are all butterflies and rainbows, and that's what we're doing, right? My friend over here, Yaretsi, she wanted, it was always cupcakes and unicorns. So cupcakes and unicorns is what we utilize to count, right? But find those things that children are into, find those things that they're connected to, that they are feeling that ability to want to learn. There's multiple adaptations you can do. I would love to see, right, that integration of children's images of who they are. Think about even adding, cutting out little math symbols or other shapes and things you might be working on. Math words even. You could cut out math words and add this to this activity. This activity goes on all year long. We take this out, the kids will ask for it. It's something different, it evolves. We might utilize different things. And one thing that folks ask me all the time, what about all these materials? I see you have these like, these are those little plastic candy things, right? Thinking about the question I always get asked is, do you leave all this stuff out all the time? I do. Do I leave all of it out? No. I leave bits and pieces of it out because what we have done is I have given these children these little squishy things and these little shapes, right? These have become modalities for them to use. These are mediators for them now. These are mediators for them to communicate their language, their understanding, their expression, who they are, their concept knowledge, right? So I just leave out a little bit. So I'll share, kind of see the classroom here, right? And you'll see on the shelves, I have different little things. This is my little art shelf. I have some, sorry, it's a little blurry, but I have like the little materials in baskets, right? Because just like me, you see my space here, right? I have all kinds of things everywhere. These are my mediators, right? This is what I need in order to express myself, in order to create the work that I do. I need these tools. I need the easel, right? I need my paints. I need my brushes and all my little tools. We're doing the same thing with children, right? We're giving them that opportunity to have those things. So even you don't have to leave it all out, right? It doesn't have to look like this crazy table over here with all the things. It can just be a few of something. Because again, you've created this for them. You've given them this ability and this ability to utilize these tools. So I say share. So I'm going to move on to another activity. And we're going to get a little bit messy. This one I'm not going to have you invite you to participate in because you probably don't have the materials. And like I said, it is going to get a little messy. So this next activity is an activity that I utilize towards the end of the year. So throughout the year, what I do is we're talking about math concepts. We're talking about different components of art. We're utilizing these things, right? We're starting out with little cardboard. We're expanding. Maybe we're doing a group project that's similar, but we're learning about all kinds of classroom management. We're understanding our own emotions. And then we like to do this activity towards the end of the year. And it's really based on fluid mechanics, embodied mechanics, formulation, communication, and social emotional learning. This is a pour, predict, and play activity. So in this activity, there's a few things that I will have you kind of talk to you about. So the first is paint. You're going to need paint, right? And this is kind of going to be intimidating. This one always kind of gets educators when I do this. I do this presentation in person, and this is one of the activities that we do, that I do with educators. And a lot of times, as soon as this first picture comes up, I mean, maybe even some of your faces, I didn't see any of the oh my goodness, emojis come up when they saw this. But here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna talk about this, right? We're going to talk about fluid mechanics and this idea of really what this is, right? And embodied mechanics, thinking about, there it goes, thinking about how children utilize this. Wait till you see some of the things that happen. So one of the things that you can do is you can get these awesome paint cups online. I don't know if you can kind of see these maybe, but they have numbers on them. And these are going to be just like parts, right? And maybe you're talking about parts, maybe you're not, but what you are doing is you're showing children that numbers mean something, right? That numbers carry meaning, right? That they do things. So whether they say, oh yeah, teacher, on this one I filled it up to the 1, and on this one I filled it up to the 2, right? You're having those conversations. There's measurement happening in there. And when we think about fluid mechanics and those kinds of things, right? What that looks like, we're gonna expand on that vocabulary. So usually what I do, you'll see on here, there's some little cups. Let me go to the next slide here. There's some little cups happening here. And what we do is we invite the children. I usually will just pour a little paint in for them. Sometimes I'll leave the paint just for them. I'll give them the opportunity to kind of utilize the paint on their own. But definitely, right, we got some paint in here. We're gonna take a little water. And how much water do you need? Do you need a lot of water? Right? What happens if we just put a little water in here? What happens to the flow, right? What happens to the consistency? These are words you can use with your children, right? These are things you can start to talk to them about. What happens? I should have taken all the caps off of these. What happens if we put a lot of water in here? So let me get to my bucket. And let's give this a little stir. So let's see what happens here. So this time we put a lot of water. Let's see what happens. Okay. Lots of water. And we get more flow, right? We get more things happening. Okay, okay. Well, is that how you wanted it? Right. So I'm asking my little friend Patrick over here. He's got his dinosaur shirt on. Oh, Teacher Daniel, it's too much. I don't like that. That's too messy. I don't want it to flow that much. Okay, well, I'm glad you used the word flow because we just taught you that, right? We just had that conversation about flow. I'd like a different consistency, Teacher Daniel. I love that word, right? We're going to talk about those things, those different words. He's formulating these ideas, right? He's communicating. So let's put a little less water and see what happens. Oh, so we put a little less water. Oh, it didn't flow as much. Yeah, I see, right? So we keep kind of going, experimenting. What happens if we put no water in here? Let's see, right? Oh, can you tell me what number you came up to? Isn't this awesome? Let's see. I need my glasses. Teacher Daniel, I see a number 2. Okay, so we put a 2 here, right? So now we're expanding on these ideas. Oh, now we got no, right? Let's get this little guy out of my way here. And then always what's going to happen, right? For some time, some of you are thinking, right, they're going to stick their hands in here and they're going to be like all wanting to do all the things, right? But that doesn't happen. What do you see in these pictures right here? Do you see paint on their hands like I have on mine? You don't, right? Because there's, again, look at their faces, just like the activity earlier. We think about what's happening there. Now I got this all in my hand. We think about what's happening there, right? What's happening with them, right? They're engrossed, right? They're engaged. As I move through here, as I start to experiment, we're talking about these different pieces of fluid mechanic. We want to do some more conversation about activities. What color do we need here? We need a different color here. Let's put some white in here because I always love white. You got to have white. You still got to have some black. right? So in these images too, you'll see some spoons on the tables. The children asked me for those spoons, actually. I did not have spoons out, and they're like, Teacher Daniel, we don't want to waste the paint. Like, we want to use this paint again. And that's why you saw too in the image that a lot of the paint was in the little cups and all the same color, because they were asking, right? They were saying, we need a little more paint, Teacher Daniel. I want to use this color that I made, because now we're color mixing, right? So now we have some vocabulary happening, thinking about our fluid mechanics, right? Now we're mix, right? We're mixing. Think about the different ways you can say that, right? How children can utilize that. I just noticed this too, and I love this. I don't know if you could see this. We'll get a little closer here. Keep inching towards you. This little guy made some circles for me in here, right? We're blending. We're blending. We're combining, right? Think about that word combine. We're merging, right? Look at this intersection here of colors, the merging that's happening. We have all kinds of stuff going on in here. We stirred, right? Thinking about fluid mechanics and thinking about those words and what that looks like. I'm gonna go straight paint again, right? And the whole time we're just talking about these words. Kids are sitting here, they're playing. And then if you notice here, what do you notice about her dress? What do you notice about her hands, right? We're joining, we're incorporating different materials, right? We incorporated the water together. We put in some white paint in here, right? We have all kinds of things going on. Sometimes children will come back and want to utilize some of the materials we did earlier, right? So they might want to put some of those in there, right? And one of the things that starts to happen when we use white is that we start to create what's called a tint. So now we're also looking at art terminology that becomes a part of math terminology as well. We look at, oh, this one is already so watery. I don't know if anybody saw that, but this thing was like completely filled with water. And then, right, got a little clear there. Sometimes I don't know even what I have over here. I'm just gonna get messy. And then we might think about what this looks like with the black. We've created a tone and we've created a shade of different colors, right? So children start to recognize these things, right? They start to come through. Sometimes all they really want is for this to be a singular color, like I mentioned earlier. And I'd like you to look at my friend Bill over here on the right-hand side, right? Ooh, things are happening over here. So looking at Bill, right? Look at what's happening there in his face, right? Look at his body. We talked about the mobility, right? We talked about body mechanics. Look how they've placed themselves, right? Look at the intent that's happening here, the ability that they're learning, right? Slowly pouring that in there, so much concentration, right? Bill was actually the one that came up with the idea of the spoons. He was like, Teacher Daniel, I need to use this color. Isn't this the coolest color? He's all, I made this tint, because we talked about tints, tones, and shades early in the year. He's like, I made this tint, Teacher Daniel, and look at, I need to use it. And we're like, okay, okay. And my friend Rogelio over here, he saw the white and he was like, I need all white, Teacher Daniel. I just want this to be white, right? The singular color, right? That understanding, talking about this incorporation, right? Talking about measurement and balance, talking about how this all looks. So as we kind of get here, we have still a little more time. I'd love to be able to answer some of your questions in here. So I'm hoping to get to this piece, right? We think about how children utilize art. This is what this looks like afterwards. They've come to this place where they've understand how a variety of their work and their understanding and their mathematical concepts are tied to this. So my hope is that as you've kind of been looking at what I've been creating here, what I've been sharing, where math is tied into this, how this incorporates these ideas, where you as educators are the ones that are the skilled professionals that can share, that can input these ideas of mathematics into a variety of content and a variety of things that are happening all around us, thinking about how we can do this for children. So what I love about these pictures, right? This is the end. This is like everybody's like done and we're gonna go out. Everybody went to the playground. So Teacher Daniel's gonna clean up the table here at the end. But please in the chat, let's see, I'm gonna bring up the chat real quick. The picture over here well, I'm looking at it, it's on my right where it shows the floor. And then the one shows the whole table. What do you notice about the one that shows the whole table? Daniel French, we're getting there. What do you notice about that full picture? Buying in bulk. I saw that, buying paint in bulk. No paint on the floor. No paint on the floor. I didn't wipe the floor. I didn't clean up the floor before I took this picture. I just walked up and was like, oh, I need this picture. No paint on the floor, right? Only one chair that might have paint on it is the middle one, the big one, the teacher chair. That's usually the only one that has paint on it because I'm messy. Like you can see this, right? Like I'm messier than all my preschoolers. Usually they're the ones that are like, Teacher Daniel, you just got it all. If you can't see, I have it all splattered all over me all the time anyway. So if you know me and you don't see paint on me, then you're like, something's wrong with Daniel. He doesn't have paint on him, right? I love all these ideas, right? I didn't should have had the chat open, but yes, you can experiment with anything, right? We think about what you can utilize to use as a mediator to get the paint on here, right? You can see, if you could see some of the beautiful things, I'm gonna bring this closer. If you can see some of the beautiful things that are happening in this work, right? As it's been hanging up here. If you could see the giant puddle that's down here, right? Thinking about how that can be on here, right? Thinking about how we can tie these concepts for children so their understanding happens, and so how we can integrate math into this, how we can integrate their thoughts and their ideas. But yeah, no paint on the floor. That's like when I always start this activity, the gasp and everybody is always like, oh my goodness, how do you do this? It's so messy. Like it's gonna be all over the place. I showed this last picture. And again, like I said, right, I don't do this at the beginning of the year. We have to build up this understanding. We have to get to this place of knowing who we are as individuals, what we can do, all this. So again, like some of the concerns I've seen in there, right? How much paint do we have? How much paint do we need? Water, right? That little piece, that little bit. You see those cups, again, I just fill them up a little tiny bit with paint. I put those cups out with paint. Maybe I'll let them like refill them later. We talk about how much you can have. And this one, I don't have the cups with all the numbers on them, but later when I got those, it was really easy to talk to them about that ability. And so just that, so again, these are all my preschoolers, right? These are happening in the preschool class. I see infant toddlers on here. Think about how you might just introduce them to fluid mechanics. You can make paint out of yogurt. You can just mix in. Shaving cream goes back and forth, right? Allergies, not. But think about natural materials you can mix some colors into so that they can also just experience, because even having that touching, that visceral kind of holding is really going to be a big piece of learning of that. Yes, yogurt. You can put a little watercolor or something food safe in some yogurt, mix it up. It'll look just like this paint. Kind of almost have the same consistency. So again, right, something they can mess with, something that they can play with if it's your little, if it's your bigger kids, right, if we're 0 to 8 in early childhood education, think about how you might get paint on here, right? Think about how you might convey paint to these to this space. I was flinging paint, right? Do we want to introduce like a bunch of these little guys here, right? Take a bunch of little pieces and shapes and stuff and then give them and say, what happens, right? Give them that ability, right? Think about height. Can you do this from a higher location? Can you do it lower? Are we going to go to the jungle gym? This actually just turned into a race, right? These things are running down the side, right? We can talk about that too, right? Thinking about fluid mechanics, thinking about balancing, thinking about measurement, right? How's this all going to look for children? Where is this going to happen, right? Spray bottles, I love it, right? You can just do tons of variation with this activity and get children engaged and get them going on. So the other thing that happens in this, right, is we've tried this. We've got, IT's gonna get mad at me. Here we go. And my computers and things are always covered in paint. You can see my clicker is covered in paint, but it always looks like that. And so let's see here. Okay, so failed variation, right? We tried this the first time. We had too much water. We used styrofoam cups. Paper cups are good. Paper planters are good. This was actually an activity where we took the paper planters and then put plants inside of it for Mother's Day. Trial and error, right? Then again, these mathematical concepts, trial and error, explanations and solutions. Explanations and solutions. This is what's happening, right? Why didn't this work, Teacher Daniel? Well, why don't you think it works? What happened? It had too much water. It didn't have enough water. What's wrong with this cup? Well, let's look at this cup. Let's look what this cup's made out of. Why didn't it hold? Why didn't you think the paint didn't stick this way? What could we do? What are your ideas, children? And the children came to me with all kinds of things. Can we get the blocks out of the block area? Well, we got to use those for other things. What else is like a block that can we get a piece of wood, right? What can we do to be different? To come up math, right? We use the explanations and solutions in math every time, right? So how do we get children to do this? These things, right? These visceral things, these things that are tied to who they are. And then again, fluid mechanics. I love fluid mechanics. I just learned about this at CPE. I won't name drop anybody, but you know who you are and you're so amazing. And I will talk to you later about this. But right, flow, things are gushing, right? Spouting. Things are spouting all over the place, spouted all up in the air. You should see what's happening over here, but it already looks like that on the floor in here. Anyways, my floor kind of looks like this. Spilling, right? Again, spill things all over the place. Running, we saw that. We saw that happening with the paint, running down the canvas here. Cascading, cascaded over the side. Do you use these words with your preschoolers, friends? If you're not using these words with your preschoolers, please take a screenshot when this one's up. Use these words with your preschoolers, right? It's cascading, spurting, surging. They're not just all S words, I promise. And welling up. When's the last time you used the word well? You should see I have a well. It's all welled up down here. Right? It's all welled up. What does it mean when it's welled up, Teacher Daniel? Well, let's talk about that. All this is down here. The flood, right? The flood of everything that just spilled down in my space. So thinking about this, right? What's heavier? It's lighter, right? Is it full, empty, half full? Did you get that? Where's that color? Is that pink under that black? Is it on top of it? Right? They're comparing it in and out. What did you put on before, after, first, next? Right? These are all algebra things, right? You follow a sequence when you're doing an algebraic equation, right? What do you first? What do you do next? What do you do after? Right? They're estimating, they're comparing. I use the paint with a bunch of water. I use the paint with way less water, right? They're contrasting, right? The volume informally, right? They're predicting. And then again, shapes, right? Shapes are happening all around here, squares. So this is another great thing, and I'll share this here just in a second, right? Squares. The other thing that happens if you do this like on a canvas, you can do it just like I did today. You can do this on a canvas with children just to explore and play. It doesn't have to be an individual product. And then you can start adding things. Oh, I have so much stuff, right? We talked about patterns earlier. I have these combs. What happens if you comb through here? Let's see if I can get a bigger comb, get you a little closer. I have so much stuff. Oh yeah, here we go. Let me bring a comb through here. You can see we started to get lines, right? Some patterns and things start to happen. We could use our fingers if you have the little ones, right? Oh, I made a square. Can you make a square? Oh, what happened when I pulled that paint away? What color came through? What color was underneath? There's actually orange. You probably can't see it, but some orange came through there. So thinking about that, right? So you can start to utilize those different materials for children. Dinosaurs, right? Footprints. I only have little dinosaurs today. Little cars, dinosaurs, right? Run them through here. Little footprints, right? Thinking about the patterning that's happening in there. So much can be done. So much can happen. with thinking about fluid mechanics, thinking about this ability. Take this outside. Another great thing to do is utilize a big canvas if you can. This is children's paint, right? Usually you can hose this off, put a little soap in there ahead of time too, and it should just like all spray right off. So think about how that might look, right? So what I want to do, because I'm almost out of time here, and he wants me to take off the tape. I forgot. Let's see what happens if I take off the tape here. So what I want to do is I want to invite you to take a look at these questions. Sometimes this tape works, sometimes it doesn't. Oh, here we go. Because I want to invite you to think about these questions on here, right? How can you model creativity and foster creative thinking in your classroom? Take these tapes off here. Oh, these are even amazing themselves. Where are you, tape? Where'd he go? Where's the other one? Oh, I should have put the end on him. Where is he? Oh, I lost him. He's in there. So you'll see, right? The line here, the line here. I lost my tape because we were having too much fun with the paint. So think about how you can model creativity and foster creative thinking in your classroom. In what ways can you integrate math into creative activities and experiences? How can you deepen your interactions with children to support their creative and mathematical thinking? Right? There's so many variations. How can you encourage children to reflect on those creations and recognize the math concepts they're using? How, again, you're the educators, right? You guys are the ones with the experience. You're here. You can create those spaces for children to grow and expand. And how can you and your colleagues collaborate to enhance practices around innovation, creativity, and math? These are important pieces, right? We need to work together. We're working together not only with our colleagues, but with the children. Look at the children, look at where they're at, look at their experiences to share, to combine, to come together. So I invite you all to take these with you the rest of the day. Think about how the amazing sessions that you experienced this morning and will experience here soon come together and guide you to that work, right? Think about how you can do that. And please, please, let children explore, let them engage and be who they are. So I thank you all so much. These are images from my classroom. My friend in the middle, Briella, she was just like me. She had to get messy. We talked about it, right? We had those pieces. What I can do for her to get her to her best place. This is my email. I am an advocate for early childhood education. I am open to anything, everywhere, anything ECE. If you have questions, comments, you want to talk about more, you want to bring this somewhere, please feel free to reach out to me. My hope is to create the best possible experiences for all children. I myself was a Head Start alumni, went there as a child. So the more impact I can create for families, the more impact I can create for children, I'm living my best life. So thank you all for having me today. I think we're pretty close to being ended. So I'm gonna stop my share and I'm gonna hit the chat. Let's see if I can get out of here and hit the chat. If you have any questions, where are you all here on my computer?
We did have some come through to the Q&A. I think if you click over to the answered tab, Carolyn was kind of marking ones that we were
Yeah,
hoping to flag.
I saw some here about babies. We talked about that. I will share the slide deck. I'll send that out. Clean up, right? I showed you, right? The messy projects. They don't get messy once the children understand. If you could see down here, I'm covered in tarps and drop cloths. Tarp first, drop cloth second. So yes, you got to do both. And then be prepared, right? Know that this is what's going to happen, right? Know that that messy piece is just going to be how it is. Carolyn found the plastic cups. Yes, thank you so much. Let's see. And then again, right, with the language, I love that question, the language for the babies. Yeah, think about, those words that are, a little not top three tier maybe, but still use them, right? Still use those big words that I shared with those little ones, but use some simpler words as well, right? So we still want to introduce those top tier words no matter what. A lot of children don't have access to that vocabulary. So what can we do to help them get there? So yeah, use both. And then approaches. Oh, jargonless language. That's an interesting question, right? I mean, again, just being authentic, talking about what children really are interested in, right? Less sales pitchy. I'm not here to sell you a product. I'm here to share with you what your children are interested in, right? What they want to do, how they want to learn, how they want to grow, and how they want to expand. Nate, I love that question because it is that commitment. I actually come from a sales background of another life ago, and so thinking about how I want to share with parents the potential and the possibility that they have, without sounding like I'm selling a product or they need to believe in something that doesn't make sense. So I appreciate you all. I think that was pretty much it in the answered question. I have the chat. Yes. I love this. So thank you all so much. I super appreciate it. If you have questions, I mean, I have the chat open, drop them in there. You see my super mess. I think I shared everything with you. I also love these trays, right? I'm sure other things, right? So if you can find like trays, these were like, we got some cookies for the office or something, and these were leftover trays. Those little, like, I'm not trying to pitch any products or anything. I had a coworker who loved the little Sargento snack things, and those were like separate. Think about artist tools even too. So even thinking about palette knives, right? Palette knives are super fun for children. There's plastic ones that you can kind of get going. Have music on too. I always have music on when I'm doing activities. It doesn't have to be loud rock and roll, right? It could just be calm, mellow. But please, no Baby Shark or like, I did Let It Go for so long, and I'm glad that that one's over. So, but just thinking about how that is, right? And again, like I mentioned, these become mediators, right, for children, and this is what you're going to want them to experience and share. I think we have a few more minutes. I'm like pulling out more things that I have because I didn't use everything. I never do. These are great too, little animal shapes, right, that you can utilize. My hands are so green. I look just like Briella. And think about those, right? Patterns with shapes. I see some Noda baby sharks on here as well. And so, yes, make a mess, have fun, talk about math. I wish I would have got my little numbers that I had in time too, but do that as well. Include those, incorporate those pieces. Oh, I found another. Ooh, the tape stuck here. Good. I'm still trying to play with it. So yes, thank you so much.
One
I'm pretty,
that I did come up a couple times was around affordability, and I see that you've really emphasized reusing items that you're finding.
yes,
So I appreciate that emphasis on sustainability and using what we have
yes.
around us.
And like you saw too with the children, right? They reused the paint themselves. So it wasn't like, and some friends would say, oh, that's a pretty color. Like, can you save me some? Because there's not space for me. And so they put little cups aside of the little colors they had made. Because again, right, we know the money and education, where's it coming from? How are we going to do this? And this can sometimes get away from us, but there's definitely ways to do this. When I started out as an artist too, it was like, well, I need to cut some costs. How can I do this? So
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Mendoza, for sharing with all of us. These were incredible, like beautiful and exciting ideas to integrate into our to integrate creativity into the classroom. I'm sure you've seen the chat is just showering you with like all of the excitement. Everyone is so excited to go back to their classrooms and make a big mess, but like productively and not a mess that they can't clean up. So I love all your attention to those details. For our attendees, we're now going to transition to our break and then our next round of breakout sessions. Man, look at all the emojis you're getting. Hello.
thank you all so much. I appreciate it. It's the best.
So for our attendees, after you leave this Zoom session, you'll go back to that Zoom event webpage. You'll be able to select that second breakout session that you're excited to attend. Remember, all of our sessions are being recorded today. So if you don't get an opportunity to attend all of them, you'll have the opportunity to go back and view the recording later on. Also, please remember to join us after the next breakout session for closing remarks and for the survey to access your certificate of participation. So more info on that certificate of participation coming soon. And that session can also be found on the Zoom event webpage. All right, with that, everyone, please enjoy your next breakout sessions. Thank you all, and thank you so much, Mr. Mendoza.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.